This summer, we are embarking on a worship series that has us exploring a different national park or monument each week. We will be looking at what makes each holy space unique, as well as what we might learn from it to inform and enrich our lives. Today's focus is on Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, and our theme is faithfulness. There is a long-standing myth that Native Americans weren't present in the Yellowstone area before white people arrived. That myth perpetuated the idea that Native people were afraid of the geysers and geothermal features. The purpose of these myths was to downplay, or even erase, Native American claims to the area. Archaeological evidence shows that Indigenous peoples have been active in the place we now call Yellowstone National Park for more than 12,000 years. As the last Ice Age glaciers were receding, a very early group, called the Cody culture, hunted and spent time in the park. Due to harsh winter conditions, most Indigenous people didn't stay in the park year-round. Only one group of Shoshone, known as the Sheep Eaters, was known to inhabit the area throughout the year. However, many Indigenous groups came into the park in warmer seasons, coming together to harvest resources, trade, and live in peace. Yellowstone's location was a place of convergence between the Great Plains, Great Basin, and Plateau Indian cultures, where these diverse groups coexisted for thousands of years. As many as 10 different tribal groups were known to gather and live around Yellowstone Lake in the summer, including the Crow, Blackfeet, Cayuse, Kiowa, Umatilla, Flathead, Shoshone, Nez Perce, and Bannock. 26 current tribes have significant cultural ties to the area, which went by many and different Indigenous names, including Land of the Geysers, Land of the Burning Ground, the Place of Hot Water, Land of Vapors, or Many Smoke. Even more North American Indigenous groups traveled to Yellowstone from far-flung places. Based on archaeological and narrative evidence, the Hopewell Native American people in what is now Ohio made a 4,000-mile round-trip pilgrimage to the Yellowstone Obsidian quarry several times. One of these trips happened more than 2,000 years ago. Over 300 pounds of Yellowstone obsidian are part of one burial mound alone in the Scioto River near Columbus, Ohio. Obsidian is a glass-like material that is formed by melting lava and can be easily fashioned into sharp objects such as tools, spears, knives, and arrowheads. Pieces of obsidian from Yellowstone were widely traded and have been found as far away as Alberta, Ontario, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Far from being feared, the geysers and geothermal features in Yellowstone were considered places of spiritual power and healing to many Indigenous groups. The thermal waters were used for both religious and medicinal purposes. In 1881, the Crow Reservation took up half of the current park. When gold was discovered and when timber and other resources from the park were sought, that reservation was chipped away until it was only about the 2 million acres it is today. When the national park was formed, Indigenous groups were driven from the area. Some still attempted to hunt and live on the land, but they were violently driven away by the United States Army. In the early days of the park, there were violent conflicts fought between the United States and the Nez Perce, Bannock, and Shoshone peoples. After Native groups were driven from the park, there was an intentional effort to erase their history in marketing materials and historical documents. But we can't ignore that the park roads were built over ancient trails established by the people who came first. And the campgrounds are places people have camped for millennia. While there is still much progress to be made toward equity, the Park Service and tribes collaborate in restoring the park to wholeness. They've worked toward restoring the buffalo herds, which were nearly wiped out due to overhunting and environmental factors. Only 24 buffalo remained in the park in 1902. Now that herd totals near 5,000. The number of wolves have also been restored in cooperation with tribes, and studies have shown that the presence of the wolves has significantly increased biodiversity in the park. When the Park Service unearths archaeological sites or remains, Native American groups are consulted as to how to proceed. There have been efforts to bring Indigenous history back to Yellowstone through signage, educational materials, and proposed exhibits, but there is still much more to do. When we visit and think of Yellowstone today, may we remember this is an ancient place of beauty, where resources and culture were shared, and where no one took too much. It is a place not of fear, but where healing and religious rites were held. May we be faithful to that history today and continue that legacy into the future.